Hello dear students, and welcome to this program. Today we'll be looking at paper 2 of the O-Level English 1125 syllabus, the writing paper. There are two sections in paper 2. Section A, directed writing, and section B, composition. Paper 2 is assessed over 50 marks and makes up 42.5% of the overall grade. The exam duration is 2 hours. Section A, the directed writing task, is assessed over 25 marks. Candidates are given a stimulus text or two texts of 400 to 450 words. They have to read the information given, evaluate and select relevant information, and then write a task of 250 to 300 words. This task can be a letter, a speech, an email, a report, or an article. 15 marks are given for writing and 10 marks for reading. In section B, candidates answer one question out of a choice of 4. They are given 2 descriptive essays and 2 narrative essays to choose from. They should write 350 to 450 words and 25 marks are available. The main change in the revised syllabus is in the directed writing task. Candidates now have stimulus materials to read rather than write from given prompts. In section B, the choice is now between narrative and descriptive writing. There is no choice of argumentative essays anymore. Here is an example of what the directed writing task used to look like. And here is an example of how the task looks now. As we can see here, candidates are given 2 contrasting points of view on a topic. They are expected to read the materials and draw out relevant information to write the given task. In this case, candidates would write a magazine article, drawing on the information given, evaluating it, and then express their own views on the issue. The assessment objectives for directed writing are in 2 parts. Some objectives fall under writing and some under reading. Under writing, we have the following objectives: articulate experience and express what is thought, felt and imagined. Organize and structure ideas and opinions for deliberate effect. When we talk of deliberate effect, we mean, are you able to persuade or convince the reader? Are you able to defend your own opinion convincingly? A third assessment objective is use a range of vocabulary and sentence structures appropriate to context. Fourth, use register appropriate to context. Context is extremely important in directed writing. It is important to sound formal if you're writing to a person in authority or to an institution. On the other hand, if you're writing to someone you're familiar with, your tone should reflect that. And the 5th assessment objective under writing is making accurate use of spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Under reading, we have the following assessment objectives: analyze, evaluate, and develop facts, ideas, and opinions using appropriate support from the text. Select and use information for specific purposes. Let us now look at how the directed writing task will be marked. 10 marks are given for reading, the ability to select relevant information and ideas from the text and to evaluate them. Then, up to 15 marks are available for writing. This will look at the development of the ideas, the organization of the work, the complexity of the sentence types, the use of correct tone and register for the task set, the ability to rephrase the language of the text, and the general accuracy of the English used. Here's one way you could plan your response when dealing with a directed writing task. The set of instructions can help you to plan your response. Number 1, read the stimulus text. Number 2, identify and highlight the main points. Number 3, Consider how convincing each point is. Number 4, decide which viewpoint to support. Number 5, think of your own ideas to add. And number 6, plan a sequence to write your points. We now move on to section B, the composition section. In section B, candidates answer one question out of a choice of 2 narratives and 2 descriptives, as shown on screen. For the composition part, we have the following assessment objectives. Articulate experience and express what is thought, felt, and imagined. Organize and structure ideas and opinions for deliberate effect. Use a range of vocabulary and sentence structures appropriate to context. Make accurate use of spelling, punctuation, and grammar. 10 marks are available for content and structure, as shown on screen. This looks at the use of descriptive or narrative features, as well as the overall organization of the writing. Then, 15 marks are available for style and accuracy. These assessment criteria look at the range of sentence types used, the range of the vocabulary, and the level of accuracy of the spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Let us now think a bit more about composition writing. A narrative piece of writing tells a story containing a sequence of connected events which may be real or imaginary. There are some features which make narrative writing different from other types of writing. A plot, a setting, an atmosphere, which is specific to the kind of story being written, and characters. You should think of all these aspects of narrative writing when you plan your narrative task. In the following slides, we're going to look at how to make stories interesting for readers. The first thing we can think about is how to start stories effectively. Let's read the extract on screen. How does the author manage to make the opening interesting for the reader? Note the use of the pronoun it. We do not know who it refers to, and this arouses the curiosity of the reader. Creating suspense and mystery with the first line is a good way of teasing your reader and making them want to read further. Now, look at this extract. Again, how is the start of the story effective? We can see that it starts in the middle of an action, and this immediately grabs the reader's attention. This is a lot more effective than lengthy introductions about waking up and having breakfast or descriptions of how sunny it was on that day. Another important aspect of narrative writing is the need to create the right setting and atmosphere. Let's read the extract on screen, especially the encircled part. The writer takes great care to set the scene, an empty country road, and creates an atmosphere as well. It was cold, dark, and rainy. This creates suspense and makes the reader want to read further. Now, look at this extract. Look at how the author has given life to his character. A key feature of narrative writing is how characters are brought to life. You should think about it too when writing stories. Do not simply say that there is a character called Sam or Sarah, but try to bring that character to life by giving a physical description, but also a moral description of the character. Look at parts A and part B in the slide above now. They both convey the same meaning, but are they equally effective? we can see that using direct speech can be a very effective way of making your stories effective. And look at the choice of vocabulary of the author as well. "I'm done," murmured Alan. Why did the author say murmured and not said? What effect does the word murmured have here that the word said wouldn't have had? And look at the other example as well. What exploded Pedro? We can see that careful use of direct speech is another way of making stories a lot more interesting for readers, and you should try to do the same in your writing. Another aspect of narrative writing that you should consider is the way you end your stories. Let's read the example above. What do you think of this ending? It's a very dramatic ending, which leaves the reader shocked and in suspense about what's going to happen next. Here's another example from a short story called The Hitchhiker. This is a good example of a cliffhanger, a dramatic ending that leaves the reader wondering what will happen next. Let us now look at descriptive writing. A descriptive piece of writing describes a person, a place, or a situation, including the atmosphere, in detail so that the reader can picture it. It is like painting a picture, but with words. It is important to use a wide range of language to have sensory descriptions to write effective descriptive essays. A descriptive piece of writing describes a person, a place, or a situation in detail so that the reader can picture it. In descriptive writing, you should use sensory language to describe what you can see, hear, touch, smell, and taste. Let's look at some examples on screen. Using visual descriptions to refer to what can be seen. For example, the street food stall was an old shack on the side of the road. Or, I could see an influx of spectators gravitating towards the playground, adorned with motley banisters and balloons. These visual descriptions transport the reader into the scene that is being created. You can also use oral descriptions to refer to what can be heard. For example, the old street vendor yelled to sell his produce, his voice shrill and grating. Squeals of delight and screeches of buoyance intensify the uproar that prevails. Or using tactile descriptions to describe things that relate to the sense of touch. For example, the warmth of the food brought life to my cold fingers. The rocks pricked my face like 100 tiny knives. You can almost imagine yourselves being in that scene. Here's another example of sensory descriptions, looking at descriptions related to the sense of smell and taste. Here are some examples. I was disgusted by the miasma of perspiration mixed with the unflattering odor of fat bubbling in the fryers. The sweet taste of freshly cooked dumplings exploded in my mouth. Right, let's recap. What have we learned today? We have seen that paper 2 is the writing paper with a directed writing task and a composition task. You have learned that paper 2 is made up of sections, section A, directed writing, and section B, composition, making up 42.5% of the assessment. You have also learned about the assessment objectives for both directed writing and composition. You have learned how each task is marked and how to plan your directed writing response. In addition, you have seen techniques on writing effective narratives and techniques on how to write effective descriptive essays. We hope that this lesson will make you more confident in writing good directed writing responses and effective compositions. Dear students, we have reached the end of today's program, which looked at the various aspects of Paper 2, the writing paper. We hope you have found it useful and are more confident with writing both directed writing tasks and narrative and descriptive essays. Thank you for your attention and see you next time.